everyone. Most of us have already heard of the situation. It's as bad as it gets. There's Memphis, Tennessee police officers, five of them, a special forces group, brutalized this young man. His name is Tyre Nichols. He's 29 years old. It happened on January 7th. There's a video on. I saw it. The video's horrific. I'm not going to show it here. If you want to find it, if you want to see it, you can find it. But it's depressing, and it kind of destroys a part of yourself if you do watch it. So I'm just going to warn you. It's not something that we need to watch. It's a thing we need to be knowledgeable of it, but it's not something we need to watch. We can't hide from it. But they brutalized this guy. They bullied him. They brutalized him. There's some confusion on why they even pulled him over. They pulled him over as some traffic violation. He swerved or something like that. And then they commenced to drag him out of his car. They tasered him. They threatened him. It was out of control. And the confusion is why did they even go to that level? Rumor is that they've been doing this to other people as well. This task force, these particular 5 men. I'm not going to name them here, but they've been brutalizing people as well. So the rumor is right now that there's going to be a lot of reports coming out to this chief. Well, I can't remember her name. I'll give it to you later. So he got away. Somehow he got away. He slipped out and got away. He ran. So the police officer wasn't able to apprehend him at that time, most likely because they're out of shape. And it's a good thing. But then later on, they did catch him. Another unit did locate him, catch him. So they all came to this one location, and there's a filming of it. And they just brutalized him. They punched him. They kicked him in his face, in his head. They batoned him. They sprayed him. I can't remember if they had shocked him in this situation. They may or not, but it's just brutal. And they killed him. He didn't die right there. He wasn't pronounced dead right there. He was pronounced dead 3 days later. But the mother who did go visit him said that 3 days later that they just kept him on life support, until she arrived, is what they're thinking. But the brutality of it and the justification of this beating, it upsets the whole nation for the most part. It upsets the whole nation. The chief is doing whatever she can. I can't remember her name right now. But it doesn't matter. If I find it, I'll get to it later. But the chief, she's doing CJ Davis is her name. So she's doing whatever she can to be transparent. They're showing the video. She's talking to the public. She's talking to the family. So they're doing everything they can with this situation. But it's just striking. It's just striking that this kind of thing could happen. And one of the things I've known is that we have to be careful, like in these situations. Like these are 5 men, right? And they did these charges, and the charges that they're doing are pretty severe charges. They're charged with second-degree murder, and they say that's up to 6 years in prison. Aggravated assault, 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping, 2 counts of official misconduct and official oppression. These are serious charges, and should be for this situation. But we have to be careful in these situations because we may go on to say, well, this is just a one-off situation. These police officers that did what they did, these are just bad apples. But the more we see these situations, the more we realize it's not bad apples, it's a culture. That's the danger of this situation. It's the culture that these police acted in the way they're doing. So one of the things is, I think the FBI is involved. So they're looking at investigating not only these police officers' conducts, but looking at other police officers that are involved, not as heavily involved, but involved. So I'm not sure what that means. But it's interesting though, once a police officer loses your trust, like what these officers did, outstepping the realms of their responsibility as police, doing criminal acts like this, you can't trust anything they've done in the past. You have to look at, and maybe the FBI is going to do this, you have to look at all the people they've arrested. You have to look at all their encounters. You have to look at all their complaints. You have to look at that. It's going to be a big job to do that, but people's lives are affected. When you got a police officer as a criminal that's arresting other officers or creating, because this situation here with Tyre Nichols, this is a created situation by them. Tyre Nichols is not a criminal, but these police officers were criminals. They acted criminally and they killed this guy. And then they're patting each other on the back. You know, in this video, they're patting each other on the back, giving each other's fisties like they accomplished something. And I'm thinking, as I'm watching, I'm thinking as I'm reading what other people are saying, what did they accomplish? You know, if our police officers were so brave as, you know, when we have these school shootings and they go in and they charge and they drag somebody out, and this guy is in this way that they did this to Tyre Nichols, Tyre Nichols, I can understand that. You know, they risked their lives. They went into a shooting building and they saved some people's lives. I get it. But in these situations, too often it's just us regular citizens, law-abiding citizens, mind you, in these traffic situations that police encounter us and they create this situation in us that make us criminals. Like they captured him twice. First time they got him, they're tasering, they drag him out of his car. They're creating, I'm not sure we're all confused with what happened here, including the chief, how it got to this point. But rightly so, Tyre Nichols is so afraid. He's like, I gotta run. Like instinctively, we know we're around dangerous people. Instinctively, we know when our lives on the line. He was right; his life was on the line, and he tried to get away. I think he tried to get to his mother's house. He couldn't do it. They caught him, and then they did what the nation knows that he did. And I tell you what, the country is in an outrage. They are in an outrage. This group terrorized and assaulted this man. And that's the thing, like when we're facing criminal police like this, you're alone. There's no protection from these police. So this Tyre is alone. He's not protected. And the worst that can happen did happen. They lost his life. How much responsibility does the chief bear in this situation? This is her department. How much does she have responsibility? And I'm going to say all the responsibility. You know, if it was just a one situation off, who knows, right? But it couldn't be. This wasn't a one situation. It couldn't be a one situation with these men. They have done it over and over again. Who knows how many times they've done it? To how many people? Who knows how many lives they've ruined? I heard somebody say brilliantly that people are affected not only by viewing this in this situation where we have this distrust for police, but people's lives are affected when they come across these situations with police where they don't feel like there's so many numbers out there where people have had encounters with police where they feel like they can't share with anybody or they can't report it to the police because they're afraid of the police. So how does that affect their life? Like emotionally, mentally, what does that do to them? What does that do to their families? You know, so it's not just this situation with this individual that they killed, Tyre Nichols. It's how did these police and their encounters with other people affect others? It just goes on and on. It goes deeper. It's so brutal. I talked about earlier, it's the culture though. And people are saying that all over the country about police culture. And it's the culture itself that allows for this type of thing. It's like, how do we offset that culture? What are the things that we can do? And I've heard somebody talk about this a long time ago. Like, we want to look for accountability in each situation. And in this situation, we have it, the accountability, but it's too late, right? They killed somebody. And how many people have they hurt before? It's almost like before a police culture will act or before the public will act, it's like we have to actually see it happen on video and somebody has to die before we start, acting in behalf of victims. Like if this thing wasn't on a video and it was on a street, police had cameras, but some of the cameras were turned off. It was on some street corner camera that we saw it. And if it wasn't on that, if we didn't see it, then what type of accountability would these police have? They would have justified it, because they're already justified in the video. They were talking about this guy was on drugs, or this guy was resisting, all these things, and he wasn't. He was on neither one of those things. They just created this scenario, and then they beat him. We're all confused. Like, what's the mindset of individuals, these 5 individuals, that can go that far to beat an innocent man, not a criminal, just an innocent man, till he's incapacitated. They beat him till he couldn't move anymore. Incapacitated, I think that's the word. He could not move anymore. He just sitting there. What's the mindset of these type of people that are wearing uniforms? That's what's scary, right? That's what's scary. That's what should be scary to all of us. But what should also be scary is it's not a one-off situation. It's a culture situation. That's what should scare all of us. That's what we should all be aware of. But I heard somebody say a couple of years ago is that part of the problem within police departments is that they're just not trained properly. I say there's 2 things, but one, they said it's not trained properly. And this is a military person speaking. I don't have his name offhand, but he talks about proper training. And I have to agree with that. Whenever you look at military, people in military uniform, you have immediate respect for them. You know what they stand for. They're very disciplined. You see them, you almost want to, salute them, though we're not military. We don't know how to salute, and you want to buy them a meal. But when you see a police officer, you don't have that same feeling. And somehow we got to get to the same point. Like police, you'll see fear, indifference, mistrust. It just depends. And somehow we have to get to that position where when we look at a police officer, we feel the same protection. We feel the same gratitude and respect as we do our military. So one way to get to that point, and I think that's what this guy was talking about a little bit, is that we have military people in each district train these police. I mean, have you seen some of these police? They're out of shape. They're not disciplined. And I'm not talking against all police, because we need police. It's not that. It's just that when you see something like this, it makes us all upset. I'm upset right now. And it just makes us all upset and distrusting that law enforcement would act in such a criminal way to somebody so innocent and then kill them. You know what I'm saying? We're all confused on it. We don't understand it. But at least there's justice in this situation. But anyway, military, the same training stripped down that military has, so that we can have the respect, so that police officers do the right thing. Somehow we have to strip down this culture, that this culture has been around for many, 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 many years. And people have been complaining, particularly brown people have been coming to community complaining about the treatment, and people have just ignored it. In part, maybe they don't want to face it. In part, maybe they think brown people deserve it. Who knows what it is? But maybe they're afraid, and as they should be. Just ignored it. This is why it's so disgusting. Like when you saw this situation, what just happened. This is why it's so disgusting when people weaponize. They try to weaponize police. It's not as effective as it used to be, but they try to weaponize police against brown people. It's backfiring in many cases. Police are getting more trained for it. But it's disgusting when people think they have that power to weaponize police against brown people, because they know we're afraid of police, as we should be. We know we're afraid of police. And even though we are afraid of police, we're very brave. As a culture, as people, as a country, we're very brave, but we're still afraid, and we should be. What we saw with this situation, we all should be afraid. I've heard people talk about, they try to tie it back to Rodney King, whatever that situation was 30 years ago, where he was beat by police, and we watched that. But the thing about Rodney King, he lived. This guy, he died. And this is not the only situation that we've had. There's been others. Ronald Green, Louisiana police brutalized Ronald Green, and they killed him. And so that's still pending. I think they have recent charges on him. But that happened in 2019. That happened a couple of years ago. They're still working on that thing. There's police have, I think they've hit the videos, I think hit evidence. It's just going on and on. But that's just now starting to get going game. But that was brutal. That was just as brutal as this situation. The video was just as brutal as this situation that we watched here. There was a Christopher Bailey in LA County. Christopher Bailey. This happened a couple years as well. He lived, but 77 deputies beat him. He was beat. He was hit 90 times, kicked, punched in his face, ribs broken, jaw broken, teeth broken out. He lost an eye, brutalized. I haven't heard anything on that. He's suing, but that was brutal. These police officers are all proud of what they did. Again, another just a traffic situation, and they claim. And I've not seen a video. I don't know if they don't have video. I don't know if they have been right. Forthright with the video. Not sure what's going on now with that one. There's this other one, Timothy Williams, happened in Louisiana. In his situation, while he was being arrested, an officer kicked him brutally in the head, and now that charge is brought up against that officer, and he got 5 years in jail. That happened last month. This happened a couple years ago, but last month he was sentenced to prison, I think 5.5 years. There's this other lady. This happened in Colorado, Loveland, Colorado. Her name is Karen Gardner. This is a weird one. This happened in 2020. She's 73 years old. She has dementia, and she was shopping in a store, I think it was Walmart, and she forgot to purchase her item, and so the employees chased her out, took the item back, and so she's confused. She's walking home, and so this police officer is a young police officer. He tried to get her to stop, pull over, and she's trying to go home. She's walking home, and he tackles her and hurts her arm and dislocates her arm, whatever, her shoulder on, and bruised her. It's horrific. Put her in jail, and he's panting like he took down some big thief. He's all proud of himself. They're laughing about. They're watching video over again. They're laughing about what they did to her. Anyway, all those people were fired, including the chief, and they pressed charges against that police officer. And I think he was sentenced to, he did a plea deal. He was sentenced to 3 years. So changes here, changes coming about. But even so, this is very horrific. That's all I got to say on it.